Hi, and welcome to Polyglot Principles. My name is Modja, and this is the channel where I teach you how to learn a language like a genius. And I do this by teaching you the principles of language learning. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about how to learn grammar. Right? So you probably noticed this in a language, right? That maybe you speak reasonably well, people can understand you, but your grammar is terrible. So naturally you want to figure out, well, how do I improve my grammar? So this is what this video is all about. Now, as usual, I'm going to be sharing very useful tips right through to the end. So if you don't want to miss out on anything, please make sure to stay till the very end. All right? So let's dig in here. The question is, why is grammar important, right? That's my question. The question I have for you is, we're talking about how to learn grammar, but if you're an intelligent, strategic person, before you figure out how to do something, the first question is, why should I do it, right? This is kind of obvious, isn't it, right? So if you spend your time figuring out how to do something, but you don't know why you're doing it, you could spend so much effort only to do something that was totally meaningless, right? What's like a cool example, right? You figure out a way to, let's say, you try to figure out and organize yourself, plan a trip, whatever, to, I don't know, man, let's say to Japan, right? But you have no idea why the heck you're going to Japan in the first place. That's kind of dumb, isn't it, right? First you figure out why, then you figure out how. Yeah, always start with why. So that's what we're doing today. Before we figure out how to learn grammar, the question is, why is grammar important? Why learn grammar at all? And that's the question I have for you. Please pause this video, go to the comment section below, and let me know why you think learning grammar is important. Or if you don't think it's important at all, let me know also. Right, then once you've written down in the comment section below, well, you can now resume the video and find out if your reasons for learning grammar agree with my reasons for learning grammar. Alright, so let's get into this. Okay, so why is learning grammar important? Let's start from there. I say yes, right? So there's a lot of among the polyglots, the really good polyglots, there's a bit of disagreement on this topic. Some will say grammar is not important, just speak, communicate with people, and the grammar will come. Kind of like children, right? Children speak pretty well grammatically without ever having attended a single classroom, right? So just by speaking and interacting. So some people say grammar is important, others say grammar is not important. Now that grammar is important, but you don't need to spend time learning it. It will automatically be learned, right? So in fact, grammar is a bit hated, right? Among polyglots, right? They say grammar, because grammar reminds you of school. All these drills and conjugations of verbs, and you're like, it's a freaking waste of my pain in the neck. And after learning all this grammar, I can't even say a goddamn thing, right? So grammar has a bad name. Now, is it possible to learn a language without learning grammar? It is possible. You can get to a high level. But I think you can accelerate your language learning with grammar, right? So that's been my own observation, that I've been able to better my skills or my abilities in a language by learning the grammar. So I consider grammar to be important. Well, why is grammar important? Grammar is basically a group of systems or structures, right? And structures and systems are very important, right? A system is like, what a system does is it enables you to deal with things that happen again and again and again and again. In life, there are certain problems that happen again and again. For example, every single morning, there's the problem of your teeth. You have to brush them, right? If you don't brush your teeth, what's going to happen? Your teeth are going to smell. You're going to have incredibly bad breath, right? So this is a problem that will continue to happen again and again in your life until you figure out how to brush your teeth, isn't it? So this is a problem that happens again and again, brushing your teeth. What's another example of a problem that happens again and again in life? For example, breathing, right? In almost every minute, every second, you have to be breathing, right? Breathing is a problem that your body has to solve again and again. If it doesn't solve this problem, you're dead, right? if you fail to take the next breath, you're dead, right? So this is a problem that's very important for the body to solve. It happens again and again, okay? Certain problems, right? So there's a book actually I really like. It's called Principles by a guy called Ray Dalio. Ray Dalio is a genius. I think a huge hedge fund. I don't know if it's like just a huge. I think he's an investor, right? Very huge investor, billionaire. His company, I think Bridgewater, is the best that the world has ever seen. Amazing guy. He wrote a book called Principles, and he talked about principles or systems. And he's really big on this. These are things that enable us to solve problems that happen again and again. And in fact, he noted something very interesting, that almost every single problem we have is another one of those, right? Which means that basically his idea was that there are no new problems. Any problem you're facing now has been faced before, either by you or by other people in other lifetimes, right? So, for example, right, a very simple one. Most teenagers think that, okay, let's say when you become a parent for the first time, you can think that this is a totally new experience, but it's not. Many people are pregnant now. Many people will be pregnant in the future. Many people have been pregnant in the past, right? But if you don't have a system, let's say, for raising children, then raising children is always going to be a new problem to you, right? So here's what I'm saying, right? In life we have every problem happens again and again. For example, if you notice your mistakes in language learning, you're going to realize that most of the mistakes you make happen again and again and again. You keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again. And one thing you're going to note also is that you're not the first person to make these mistakes. You're not the first person to, well, if you're speaking English, you're not the first person to, let's say, not be able to use articles correctly. You're not the first person to be able to mispronounce words. You're not the first person who's not able to speak in the present tense or whatever the tense is. Whatever mistake you're making in language, most likely you've made it many times before. You'll make it many times after, and many people have made the same mistakes, right? So why do we need systems? Grammar is also just a bunch of systems, a bunch of principles, right? What grammar structures and systems enable you to do is they enable you to solve problems that occur again and again without having to think about them. That's what a system does, right? Look, if you had to wake up every morning and figure out afresh what to do about your teeth that are smelling, that will be very tiresome, right? It's better just you figure out how to brush your teeth, and that's it. Now you already know how to deal with the smelly mouth problem. You just wake up, brush your teeth. You don't have to think about it. Now you can free your mind to think about other things, right? So let's say, for example, if you don't have a system for solving any kind of problem, what's going to happen is that you have to figure it out afresh every single time. I'm trying to think of a practical example, more useful example for you. For example, what? They're simple things, right? In your life, you're always going to face disappointments. You're always going to face failure, right? This just happens. You're going to fail now, you'll fail in the future, and you failed in the past. This is a recurring problem. If you don't have a system, if you don't have a way, a method that you use for dealing with failure, every failure you face is going to feel new and overwhelming. You're going to have to figure out every single time how to deal with failure. You deal with failure now, and then you're good. Then the next failure, again, you're in pain, and you have to figure it out over and over again, right? This is inefficient and time consuming, right? It's better to have a way of dealing with, like you have your own method or system or structure for dealing with failure. That way, when it comes up, you know how to deal with it. This is the same with language learning, isn't it? Same with language learning. There are certain problems that occur again and again in your language learning process. If you don't figure out if you don't figure out a system for handling these kinds of problems, whenever they show up, like Let's say you don't know how to express things that are going to happen. So the recurring problem in language learning for you is that you don't know how to speak in the future tense. What's going to happen? Every time you have to think in the future tense, you're going to stop and think about it. Think about how to say things in the future. And by the time you do this, you've lost your train of thought. The people that are listening to you are bored. And you're going to continue to have this problem for the rest of your language learning experience until you learn a system for how to express ideas in the future or the present, or how to use prepositions and all that stuff. All these grammar structures are systems which, if you practice them correctly, enable you to solve problems that occur again and again in your language learning, and it helps you to solve them automatically. Once you have mastered the present tense, for example, you don't need to think about how to use the present tense. You just speak, because the system for expressing things that are happening now has been internalized. Your mind and your body have internalized this system, so it's all automatic. This is what you want to do. You want to keep having systems so that you make the language automatic. Think about your native tongue. If it's English, in English, what happens is if it's your native language, you don't have to think about you don't have to think about the words you're going to use or the sentence structures you're going to use. You just speak. The language just flows. This is because all the systems for expressing things that are happening now in the future, all the important language systems, or most of them, have been so internalized that speaking has become automatic to you, right? This is where you want to get to. And this is why grammar is very important, because grammar is going to enable you to speak automatically, which is basically to speak fluently, right? And look, without grammar, you can still learn how to speak fluently. You can still, like, if you don't spend time learning the present tense and you speak regularly with people, after a couple of months or years, you'll know how to say things in the present tense. But that's a slow process. If you sit down today, learn the present tense and do the correct drills, you can, within, let's say, 1 week, be able to express things in the present tense with ease. As good as you'd be able to, faster, instead of having to wait for, let's say, 3 months in order to learn them just through a huge experience, right? If you're exposed to the language long enough, like a child, after a couple of months or years, you'll figure this stuff out. But why do you have to wait to learn all this stuff by experience when you can pick up a grammar book or watch a video on YouTube about a particular language structure, a tense, a preposition, whatever, drill it correctly, and then you're able to automatically, right? Use the structure, automatically speak in the present, automatically speak in the past, and so on and so forth. That's why I feel it's more efficient. Grammar is very useful, and it's more efficient to learn grammar intentionally instead of learning it unintentionally through repeated exposure over time. Okay, so now the question is, we've figured out why grammar is important, but the question is, well, how do you learn grammar? So here's the method I use for learning grammar. Very easy, right? First is I need to be sure about what grammar structure I'm trying to learn. I need clarity, right? For example, hey, I want to learn how to use prepositions. Okay. And typically the grammar structure I'm going to pick is the grammar structure I struggle with the most, right? If you solve your biggest weakness or your most frequently made mistake in a language, once you find a system or you learn a structure to solve like a mistake, to correct a mistake that you consistently make, what you're going to notice is that your language learning ability is going to rise, right? You're just going to become better, and you're going to notice a huge improvement once you eliminate your biggest mistake in a language, right? So the first step is identify what is your biggest grammar mistake, right? It could be prepositions, it could be conjugation, it could be future tense, whatever it is. That's the first thing I do. I identify it, right? And then once you identify your biggest mistake, well, the second thing I do is I usually will go on YouTube or a book and look up for that particular language structure. Let's say I'm learning the present tense. I watch videos on that teach you like the principles, like they give you a system, right? How to say things in the present tense, right? Maybe how to conjugate the most important verbs in the present tense. I learned that information. So that's theory. That's the next step, is theory, right? First of all, you identify the grammar structure. You have to know the grammar structure. Next is you want to learn the theory of the grammar structure, which means you just watch videos on it, right? If it's the present tense in English, they might tell you the most important verbs are the verb to be. So they teach you conjugation, maybe I am, you are, we are, they are, and so on and so forth. So that would be the theory of it. And then the next step will be application. Practice, actually. Let's just put it practice, right? You identify the structure, you figure out the theory of it, the explanations you learn, the explanations from a teacher or a book, perhaps. And then next is exercises, massive practice. So you get a bunch of exercises that are teaching you how to use that particular structure. And the exercises have to have answers, because you need to know whether you're doing it right or you're doing it wrong, right? Because this is how the brain learns, by contrast, right? If you do an exercise and you don't know whether your answer was right or wrong, there's no growth, right? So now you want to do massive exercises, and like, how many exercises should you do? Let's say you're learning the present tense. How many exercises should you do? Or how many present tense exercises should you do so that you feel confident that you have now learned, you have now mastered that particular language structure, the present tense? Well, the answer is you keep doing exercises. And nowadays it's easy because you can find books, and also online, there's many online exercises for all sorts of grammar structures, right? Because this is like I was saying before, there's no new grammar mistake. That grammar mistake is known and documented somewhere in a book or maybe a video, right? So what you're gonna do is you're gonna get these exercises, and you wanna do those exercises until you're barely making any mistakes. You're not gonna get things 100% right, but if on your exercises, like, you're getting frequently, you're just getting every answer right, right? Maybe it's a fill in the blank kind of question. I am blank to school. Then you enter going. And if you keep answering these questions correctly, and you feel that it's becoming easy for you to answer the questions, that means that you have mastered that language structure. And then you move on to the next one. What you're going to notice is that if you picked the correct grammar structure, and if it was indeed your biggest, one of your biggest mistakes or difficulties in the language, once you master that grammar structure, what you're going to notice is this. As you start speaking, this new structure that you've learned is going to automatically start coming out as you speak. You're going to automatically start noticing when people use it, and you're going to automatically start making corrections, right? I guess just as we near the end here, I think an important thing to note is this. Learning grammar is important, but learning grammar alone will not help you, as you have probably learned the hard way. In the school system, you spent maybe years and years learning Spanish grammar or French grammar, whatever the heck grammar you learned for whatever language, and you notice that after years you couldn't speak, you couldn't communicate, right? So learning grammar has to be done in conjunction with speaking, right? You want to speak as often as possible, and to boost your speaking or to boost your writing, you want to also learn key grammatical structures, right? If you combine speaking with learning the correct grammatical structures and drilling them to the point where you're using them automatically, subconsciously, you're using the correct grammar structures, they're going to show up in your speech, and people are going to be like, wow, you speak so well, you've improved, and so on and so forth. All right? So, look, if you like the content I've been sharing, please like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the video and hit the bell notification. Ding, 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 ding. This will notify you whenever I publish a new video. I publish a video every Monday at 8 a.m. Central African Time. Thank you very much for your attention, and hope to catch you in the next video. Bye.